Hi everyone, welcome to the first episode of Uncomfortable Chats with Lejla and Thapi. Today we're going to be talking about minority groups, especially within the diabetes space. So let us start by defining what is a minority group. So basically, for me, I think minority is usually a group that is less represented and, or rather, like misrepresented. A lot of the times, minority groups are like found in these sort of areas, especially like healthcare. And they, I think for me, I believe that they contribute to the whole factor of health inequality and they contribute to things like inequality in general. And it's so funny because I mean, here in South Africa, the majority group, I must just be very blunt, is Black people. But yet, when it comes to when it comes to diabetes, it's a thing of the minority group. It becomes people who are of color, and it's quite sad because I just feel like, we should have also been accommodated for, or we should have been more put into consideration as well, seeing that there are about like 5 million people living with diabetes in South Africa. But yeah, I just wanted to just start off by saying that, and also hear your opinion about it because I know it's not just something that happens in South Africa, but it happens like everywhere in the world. And yeah, so how is it in your country, and how do you feel about it?
First of all, thank you for the lovely introduction. I think regarding this topic, it is a very sensitive topic, and I guess that's why we chose this title, "Uncomfortable Chats," because a lot of people feel uncomfortable talking about these things, but yet we have to realize how important it is to address these things because those minority groups always feel discriminated and mostly afraid to even talk about their issues. And I saw it with my own eyes. I probably even like felt it partially on my own skin. And it's always you have that underlying issue that is, either nationality, race, where you come from, and like so many other factors that play a big role like in your social status, and then they suddenly start playing a role in like the care you get, in how projects regarding like diabetes projects are shaped around how big organizations address those issues. Are they addressing those issues? Are they addressing them correctly? And then like from my point of view is I see it being there present, but I'm not seeing people actually providing something meaningful and including those minority groups. Rarely. I mean, we can't say that there's nothing being done, but like we can definitely as a community do a better job of like talking about it. So that would be maybe the first thought that comes to my head. And yeah, I don't know, like it always like bugs me.
I fully agree because I feel like at the same time, I mean, look at how we've just surpassed or just came out of Black History Month. And, there are so many people who don't actually believe in it and people who don't actually want to see it and support the cause, which is a very good cause because, I mean, here in South Africa, we don't like celebrate it per se. But I find it so empowering and inspiring to put Black people at the forefront and kind of talk about like the disparities in which we face because there's so many disparities and it's just so unfortunate. And I remember just seeing a post by Beyond Type 1, and I know it's a huge controversial topic around Beyond Type 1, but I must say I love that post because it highlighted how there are so many people of color who don't have the necessary care, access to diabetes care in regards to because of the color of the skin. And I know it's not just a thing in just regards to society, but I mean even like health conferences. I mean we just had ATTD just like a week ago, and you know I remember going to ATT last year, and I remember you were also part of it, and I came out really distraught. I remember coming out of it, and I was just like, there's a lot missing. It's a lot about tech, but am I, as a person of color, or am I, a person living in a low middle income country, going to have access to this tech? We can talk about all the tech in the world, but how long will it take to actually come to countries like South Africa or Bosnia or Zimbabwe or Africa as a whole? And it's such a huge battle because I mean things like CGM, it's the basic standard care now. It's seen as that. But are we ever all going to receive it? Or is it something we need to like shift around in regards to who's privileged, who's not privileged to have it? Who is, who's deserving to have it? Are we all going to receive the necessary care that we have? And how is it going to be implemented? I think it's something that's extremely important and we need to look into it like on a larger scale. And I'm so glad that we talk about like access to diabetes care now, and especially at these conferences, because I think it's about that time when people realize that this is important, and the more like it's being exposed, the more people actually realize the barriers towards getting this key. And one of the biggest barriers has to be racial barriers, not let alone technological or like language barriers or whatever, but racial barriers. Why is it that other you know nationalities or cultures or certain people need to have this more access to it than a certain group? And I'd like to hear your opinion about it, because I know it's something that we've been chatting about for a very long time. But I'd also like to share with our viewers, just so that we can hear where you're coming from as well.
Yeah, I think like I have that the perspective of like a third person, because I also like went to that conference and I was at EASD Live, and I was like, well, like there are not many like minority groups or low and middle income countries represented, because when you think about it, like to get into one of these conferences, like the ticket costs around 700 euros approximately, like maybe a little bit less, a little bit more. And then if you think about like you're responsible for your own food, accommodation, for your own flight, and then like imagine how expensive it is for someone from South Africa living in that standard and being discriminated on many levels to find the resources to attend something like that and learn something from it. So it shows like how many barriers people coming from those communities have in order even to access information, not even like access technology, but like you can't even physically inform yourself because you don't have the ability to attend it. And then if you look at generally how things have been developing in the community, like we have so many technologies, but not many of them are very accustomed to like low income resources, because like first of all, when you like see the price and like so many other things, it's not a product for a big amount of regions and countries, because it is not something that they can sustainably have. And why aren't we like during these conferences having those conversations? How can we achieve equitable access to care for everyone, but like and focus on having like innovative ideas around how can we approach those problems in low-income countries, because you can't apply the same strategy to Germany and South Africa because it's completely different. So you have to focus on the specific issues and problems and barriers that country or that community is facing in order to be inclusive, and in order to say we're trying to achieve equitable care, because that's the reality. And like even if you look, like so many organizations, like I don't want to point fingers, I'm just saying, it's something I noticed, like they, like when even making like marketing materials, like they're not putting like a person with a hijabi or like a person of color, or like like it's just like those that like normal standard marketing, without actually thinking, well, is my project or is like what I'm representing going to hurt anyone, or I want to include more people, so I should probably show them that I'm very open to actually providing them something, and I'm not doing this for some personal benefit, for the money, for just being popular. Like if you actually care about something, you really should see to be there for everyone. And that's something that I want to see the community doing more, is being more supportive.
No, definitely. And I mean, I liked how you mentioned inclusion, but I think inclusion comes with a lot of barriers. I know a lot of people have this idea of inclusion as diversity, but let us go back to, and I see this in a lot of ads. I mean, even here in South Africa, it's done a lot by like a lot of organizations in that. You find that someone is trying to promote something and they will have one black person, one white person, one person who's colored, one person who's Indian, one person who's, but also not remembering that we are not using people from different middle classes. So it could be a black person, but a black person who is affording, who can afford a CGM. And then it could be a white person who's also has the privilege of affording it. But what about the people in the low income class? You know what I mean? Um, and that's where I kind of feel like, why is it that we need to kind of, it's not being inclusive, it's rather being, we are separating people. We are according to class, according to income that they earn in their families and things like that, which is very unfortunate because we don't need to do that at all. And I see it as, I use the concept window dressing because it's just saying, hey, look, we are diverse, but yet we are not going to cater to the whole community. We are catering to certain classes, certain people, and that's it. We don't care about if you're coming from a rural area or not. We don't care. It's a lot of marketing strategies that go into this, but they don't remember the things about the different classes. And I remember I was at an event and I remember talking to one of these diabetes startups, and I said to them, look, if you plan to come to countries like Africa, or I mean a continent like Africa, you need to do your demographics right. You need to know that we have a certain level of people, as in different classes. We need to know that there's a different like cultures, how are these people going to the affordability aspect of things. So deep research needs to go into all of this. And I see a lot of companies miss this, like they don't understand this. And as you say, we cannot expect a company that's doing so well in Germany to do so well in South Africa. They are not on the same standards or levels. And we need to consider we are a third world country, whereas Germany is a first world country. So it's things like that. Demographics needs to go into this. Research needs to go into this. But then we also go back to allowing, people of color to present their research at these conferences because it only makes sense. They know what it is like. We can't expect someone else to come and talk for us and try and make us understand when they don't live on the grounds. They don't they don't do the groundworks. It doesn't add up. And I see a lot of people, researchers. I mean, I've went to numerous conferences. I remember going to ISPAD and just being one of about 10 people who were of color. And I was like, how is this a thing? I don't understand. Like, how are we still living in the society? We need to, how does one feel as a person of color in a room of so many non-people of color? It's things like that. But I think that is something we need to address as time goes as well. And we need to do better.
I definitely agree, and like even if you look at the research that is presented at ATTD, like I come from Bosnia, which is a very small country with limited resources, and then you present me research that has been done in the UK on patients who have completely different lives. So if you want to have representable research, you have to have a representable sample. So you have to focus your research in low resource settings because those people have completely different lives and access to something. And not taking that into consideration, I don't see it as representable results because like you can say this is for this group and then for everyone else, you just left in the air without any information how it affects your community. And then like we're also like a country that has a lot of rural areas, just like South Africa, and I know that so many people like have to come to our big hospital, and it's and when you look at them, like they have a different degree of education, a different degree of care, a different degree of every level of integrating themselves into society. And you have to tailor diabetes care towards them because they can't fit into a mold that is being made for a community. You have to really make diabetes care personalized in order to really accustom everyone. And I think, as you said, like that is something that those companies are definitely missing.
No, definitely. And, just to wrap this up as well, I think it's very important that, we we include, we actually use the word inclusion in an inclusive way. Let's not separate cultures. Let's not separate people. You know, we are all one. We are all working towards the same purpose. And I mean, we are all living with a condition that is very, you know, it's very known. And so I think it's very important that we take the necessary steps and find ways to involve a whole lot of people, because I feel like we very much living in a very divided world, you know. Right now, as I said, there's so many organizations that are catering to diabetes, but we are so separated. We don't feel that they cater to our needs, or that we are heard when we are speaking, because they are not doing it for the right reasons. You know, it's not to help the community, but rather to gain from them, and not gain from them in a way of including them, but in a way of driving them away from them. You know, so let us be more inclusive. And I feel like we need to a lesson to many organizations: go out there and include your community. Each person has a community, and you know, there is an episode we are going to do about community as well. But that will obviously come in the future. But yeah, I think involve your community, get involved, and not just seek a certain group. I think when you look for a certain group, it separates us, it divides us. And yeah, so this is just the end of our video. And yeah, so we will be doing many more of this. This is just the first of many. And yeah, thank you so much for watching.